Champions League suspension, and Bjørkan the left back. Then in midfield, Patrick Berg, they tell me he's their best player. Håkon Evjan to his right, Sondre Fet to his left, and then Blomberg on the right, Jens Petter Hauge on the left, and Kasper Hjørk through the middle. And the Manchester City team, they're all lined up and ready to go. There's the whistle from the German referee, Sven Jablonski, and it is Bodø who get the match underway, and it's fired forward, where Husanov's able to head it back towards the halfway line. Yep, the Manchester City team, just to run through it again, the City win a free kick on the halfway line. Donnarumma in goal, back four of Lewis, Husanov, Alain on his Champions League debut, and Ait Nouri at left back from the Africa Cup of Nations. Then Rodri in midfield, O'Reilly, Reinders, Foden, Shirky and Haaland.
Well,
so
yeah, that's how I thought they'd set up. Actually, Ait Nouri's playing right back, O'Reilly left back, and Lewis
in the midfield.
In that central role, yeah.
There we are then. Yeah, we did wonder, there are so many options, aren't there? But that's the way it is. And Ait Nouri in possession now, just passing the ball forward and getting it back halfway inside the Bodø half from Shirky. So Bodø Glimt, their supporters, almost all of them dressed in yellow and black. It's been quite the season for them in the Champions League. They've built this club over the course of the past decade, and they've enjoyed times, Bodø Glimt, that the club could never have imagined. They were telling me yesterday what's happened to this club in the last 10 years is a fairy tale. And were they able to win here tonight against Manchester City, well, that would just put the crown on it. And it is Manchester City who come forward on the right-hand side with Ait Nouri, but they've lost possession, and now the ball's played forward to Hjørk inside the box on his right foot, he lays it across to the deflection, Patrick Berg with a shot, it's deflected up in the air, still inside the 6-yard box, and City just about are able to work it away. Well, that is typical Bodø. They are so dynamic on the counter-attack there. They got the ball back, here it is on the left-hand side with Bjørkan, the left back, he's looking for support from Fet behind him, and then it goes back further towards the middle of the half. However, Bjørkan's back onto it down the left-hand side. The Norwegian supporters all on their feet to the left, anticipating the potentiality of a goal for their team against Manchester City, but back they go to the halfway line.
Yeah, and just at the end of that attack, Blomberg and Hjørk got in each other's way.
Their ball's been just turned forward by Hjørk for Blomberg, but the offside flag is up, and it's a free kick to Manchester City, half inside their own half. I wasn't sure, Chris, whether after the Manchester derby on Saturday, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for Bodø, because clearly the City players, and there have been 4 changes from that starting lineup, they'll be stung by that.
Absolutely, that was the biggest thing about the derby game, just how flat Manchester City were at the weekend. So you would expect Pep Guardiola drilling into his place. We've got to respond with a bit of energy this evening and try and turn Bodø over early. But what we do know is that Bodø, they are really well organised as a team, and they're blocking off that central area, not letting Manchester City play through them.
Yeah, they're a real front foot team. Ball played down the right-hand side for Ait Nouri, who's onto this, into the Bodø left-back position. They're playing from left to right as we look at it from our very right of centre commentary position. Ball played into the penalty area for Reinders, but he just slipped there on the dead ball line on this artificial pitch, lost his footing, straight behind for a goal kick, 0-0.
Yeah, that was a trademark Reinders run, that right-hand channel. Ball slid into him, and he, as you say, just lost his footing. I think we'll see plenty of those runs from him throughout this evening.
Yes, and City winning the ball back. Husanov stepped in nicely there, and here is Shirky with the lime green numbers on the back of these bottle green Manchester City shirts, and Bodø in the all yellow kit. This is 5 Live from the BBC. If you've just switched on here, by the way, BBC Radio Manchester listeners are with us as well, so welcome to you. You're very it's great to have you with us as O'Reilly plays the ball forward to Shirky. Out to the right-hand side it comes. Ait Nouri looking to get forward down the right-hand side, slips the ball into the penalty area for Lewis's run. Lewis cuts it back, but it's deflected away out of play, just down in front of us here, where the spin of the ball on the artificial surface actually keeps it in. And Shirky then just rolls it actually out of play on the halfway line, so it's a throw-in to Bodø. Yes, if you have just switched on expecting to hear drive, then we will have a full roundup of the day's news at half-time in this match. But almost 5 minutes played here in the Arctic Circle on what is, it almost goes without saying, a very, very cold night. The temperature must be hovering around zero, Chris. You would have thought, wouldn't you? And I was warned about the wind that whips in off the North Atlantic, but actually it's quite a quiet night. There's just a sort of gentle breeze blowing at the moment. Ait Nouri down the right-hand side, rides the challenge on him. Now 2 more players in front of him, slips it into the penalty area. Shirky with a shot, and it might have clipped the outside of the post, or did the goalkeeper get his leg to it? I think it was a save. Yep, it's behind. It's a corner to Manchester City.
Yeah, in this first 5 minutes, all Manchester City successes come down this right-hand side. Ait Nouri, a left-footed right-back, just popping the ball through to Shirky. Angle against him, went for power. It's a smart save at the near post.
Yep, just got his left leg to it to deflect it round the post. So it's a corner, first of the match, to Manchester City. Phil Foden to take it. Here's the delivery into the 6-yard box. Oh, what a chance that was. Headed wide, glancing header, and the touch took it beyond the far post. And what an opportunity that was for Manchester City to get an early settling goal, but glanced wide and behind, and it is a goal kick.
It was a lane, wasn't it? He's got to score. He's only got 4 or 5 yards out. Saw the ball all the way. Brilliant ball into the box, but missed the target.
Yeah, Max Allain, who scored against Exeter in the FA Cup, had a chance to score in his Champions League debut. However, at the other end, it is Bodø who are breaking forward. The ball crossed to the edge of the penalty area, but Manchester City were able to clear it away. What a chance that was from Allain.
Well, he's got to score. You know, he really has. He'll be disappointed. There's a free header, no pressure on him from any of the Bodø defenders, and headed it wide.
So Max Allain, just his 5th appearance for the Manchester City first team after making his debut earlier this month. Manchester City in possession at the back. At any time Bodø get over the halfway line, their supporters are all on their feet, which is what they're doing now as it's played into the area to Herc, but as he looked to turn, it was cleared away. Haaland now strong on the halfway line as Manchester City counter-attack with Shirky. This is, I cannot understate what a great occasion this is for Bodø to have Erling Haaland here on their home ground. He has played here before, Chris. Did you spot that? When he was playing in Norway for Molde, he played here and he scored.
Yeah, well, he scores at most places, in fairness, doesn't he, Erling Haaland? But not in great form coming into this game.
No, one goal in his last 7 appearances.
There was a Manchester City fan at breakfast who said he was having Aguero over Haaland, and Haaland needs to do more with the build-up play, which I thought was maybe a little harsh.
Well, that's an opinion. It's an opinion, as you well know, as one of the hosts of 606. Might get a mention this weekend. But that was back in 2018 when Erling Haaland played here, and Odin Bjørtoft, the Bodø captain, was telling us yesterday that he remembers him just as a little skinny boy. Well, he's far from that now. Here's Ait Nouri as Manchester City attack towards the edge of the penalty area, played across, only half cleared, rattles around inside the box. Fett got his right foot to it, and then it's cleared further away by Shervold, and it will bounce out of play for a Manchester City throw down the left-hand side. So yes, this is the first of a double bill today of Champions League commentary on 5 Live. Bodø Glimt 0, Manchester City 0, and then later we'll have all of what's actually quite a busy evening of football, but the commentary will be Tottenham against Borussia Dortmund, which is an interesting one. Borussia Dortmund, they were Bodø's last opponent, and that was a 2-2 draw in the Westfalenstadion. You know, that's another really eye-catching result. Even though they've not won, the match is here. Lost 1-0 to Monaco, drew 2-2 with Tottenham, you might remember that, and then also a thrilling 3-2 defeat against Juventus. They give teams a game.
Well, the Monaco game, they had 65% possession.
And now Shirky for Manchester City, played out to Ait Nouri. The yellow flags continue to be swirled around in various points of this little stadium. Phil Foden playing despite the fracture of a bone in his hand. He's got a protective cast on that, on his right hand. A huge white bandage. just watching a drone flying over the top of the ground as Manchester City go back towards the halfway line. 0-0 if you've just joined us. Lewis playing it through. Shirky on his left foot into the penalty area to Haaland. Haaland turns, curls it goalwards, but right across the face of the Bodø goal. And the goalkeeper Heiken just watched it and actually stuck up an arm and brought it down and picked it up on the bounce.
So we all know Erling Haaland has got a hammer of a left foot, but when that ball was slid through to him, the angle's slightly against him. I'm really surprised he didn't take a shot on with his right foot there and just go for power. Came back on his left and tried to beat Heiken with a chip, but comfortably gathered by the goalkeeper.
Yeah, just walking back, Haaland into the centre circle, staring down at the ground. He has scored in all 5 of his starts in the Champions League this season, and indeed in his last 6 starts in this competition. Scored penalty in the Bernabeu before Christmas when Nico O'Reilly was the hero with his first goal in the Champions League. That got Manchester City back on track, and City coming into this match 4th in the table. And just to remind you, for those who are unfamiliar, in this relatively new league phase of the Champions League, you have to finish in the top 8 in the table to go directly through into the round of 16. The places below that, then you're looking at playing in the playoff round in February next month, so a 2-leg playoff tie. And then as Manchester City come forward, you drop down below that line into the elimination places, which is where Bodø Glimt are at the moment. Shirky, nice, Ait-Nouri into the penalty area, but just got a heavy touch on that, and it was whacked away by Gunderson out of play just down in front of us. It's 0-0 on 5 Live.
Yeah, Shirky, such a clever player there. Lovely little flick there with Ait-Nouri. Looks like they're going to be linking up on this right-hand side. The king of the assists, Shirky.
Here's Husanov on the halfway line. I met a young reporter yesterday who's come all the way from Uzbekistan to cover this match because of Husanov. He's come from Tashkent. He was telling me he comes from 10 minutes away from where Husanov's family home is. Ait-Nouri down the right-hand side to Shirky, who drags it back, and it was deflected into the Manchester City man, who's less than impressed with that. He thinks he should have a corner, but the assistant was decisive there, immediately flagged for a goal kick.
It was Hauger defending 1v1 against Shirky. I thought the decision was the correct one. Came off Shirky. I travelled from Norwich, John. We're not making a big deal about that. There's 3 flights from Norwich International Airport, John. It's a fair old trek as well.
Norwich International to Bodø, Tashkent to Bodø. There's goalkeeper Heiken, who is, well, he's Israeli by birth, Heiken, but his parents are Russian, and he is a Russian under-21 international, but 30 years old.
Had a spell at Bristol City, didn't he?
He did, yes. A very brief spell. Got a short-term contract. He didn't get another one. So here he is at Bodø Glimt, and he has made more saves than anyone else in the Champions League so far this season, and he's already made a very good one here tonight. I think it's over 40 saves now that he's made in this league phase. So that is Nikita Heiken, and if he does get Norwegian citizenship, we might see him in the squad at the World Cup next summer, as Manchester City look to play the ball out from the back. It's O'Reilly, then back into central defence, then back to Donnarumma in Manchester City. Rodri back inside his own penalty area, right foot touch across here to Husanov. Now it's up on the halfway line with Shirky. Again, Ait-Nouri getting forward at every opportunity on this artificial pitch. Challenge comes in on him from Hauger, but City are able to keep it. Rico Lewis, then right-footed, out goes the ball to the left-hand side. O'Reilly is there in the orange boots. He pulls that down, slips it forward now to Phil Foden. Foden down into the Bodø right-back area. Then to O'Reilly again. Reinders is there. Gloves on from Reinders. Ball through into the penalty area, though. It doesn't. It's not right for Foden. Just runs away through to the goalkeeper Heiken. 0-0.
I mentioned the setup from Bodø, that they are happy for Manchester City. They're giving up those wide areas and saying you can have balls in those wide areas. We're going to defend narrow, let you put crosses into the box, but you are not going to play through us. Well, that's the plan.
Well, almost a quarter of an hour played, and it's still 0-0. Manchester City have had more of the ball, but Bodø, as they do, have threatened. Gary Flintoff, our producer, has told me what the temperature currently is. What do you think? What do you think the temperature is, and what do you think it says it feels like?
I think it'd be -1 at a guess at -5. Does it feel like -5? Is that?
So you're going -1 feels like -5. It's actually, it claims, the technology, it's actually -2, and it feels like -7. Right, Nuri.
Well,
that must be why they're all clapping their hands together.
Do you trust the technology?
Do you trust it? Yes. The weather app's let me down a couple of times recently. As the ball's played forward to Foden. Now O'Reilly down the left-hand side. Into the full-back position. Takes on Shervold. Gets the crossover left-footed. Haaland in the middle, but he's beaten in the air by Bjørtoft, who got up highest. And then it's cleared away by Blumberg on the edge of the penalty area. Comes back to O'Reilly, though. Manchester City press again. High cross. Haaland at the back post. But Gundersson's there this time to get his head to it, to flick it behind for a corner.
Yep, Haaland didn't jump for the second cross. Good first time from O'Reilly. Double shift, got to the byline, hung it up at the far post. Well defended on 2 occasions from Bodø, with Haaland lurking.
Foden then with the corner, just down to our right. That's at the school building end. It's a big rectangular grey building. Foden, left-footed, right over everyone inside the penalty area. Lewis just keeps it in there, brings it down. So Lewis now back to the edge of the box. Shirky is there, just outside the area, curling it in and all the way through for a goal kick. That was neither nothing nor something, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
you expect better from Shirky. Had time on the ball there and tried to pick Phil Foden out, who was lurking at the far post on a diagonal, but 10-15 yards out with the pass there. Poor from Shirky. Don't often say that about him.
We do not. A real favourite, isn't he, of those Manchester City supporters? They wouldn't have been saying anything about him at breakfast time to you, Chris, I don't think. Ball played forward for Bodø, and then it's won by Hauge, and then back it goes into Bjørkan, the left back. Bodø Glimt 0, Manchester City 0. 5 live from the BBC. If you're on the move, you can listen via the BBC Sounds app to the live radio from all the way up here in the Arctic Circle, this town of just over 50,000 people. It is quite rugged, isn't it? It's a sort of the hills around before you get to the mountains. It's a kind of almost lunar-like landscape, rocky hills. And we're right on the water here as well, the icy Arctic waters of the North Atlantic, the picturesque harbour of Bodø with all of the yachts and boats bobbing around in it. And the ball back with the goalkeeper Heiken, all in orange. His ball to the halfway line, but that's taken down by Elaine. And now Rico Lewis takes up possession of the ball, but has to play it back into his own half to Nico O'Reilly. Pep Guardiola is watching over there. He's got a big dark blue scarf on wrapped around his neck. Just had a birthday a couple of days ago, Pep Guardiola, 55 on Sunday, the day after the Manchester derby. Happy birthday, Pep.
Yes.
As Hauge has it down in the full-back position, but Ait Nuri has nipped it away from him. Ait Nuri then back to Lewis. Infield to Rodri. Rodri, his ball outside of his boot to Shirky with a cross, which hits defender Bjørkan and bounces behind, and it's another Manchester City corner.
Yeah, Rodri's been really good in this first, nearly 20 minutes, just orchestrating things in that midfield area, whether from the back or a little bit higher up. I think they'll just have it checking whether there was a handball from the cross there. Rodri having words with the referee in his ear.
Well, the cross, the defender was on the dead ball line, but
I think that
he's got his arm tucked into his body. It hits his arm, which is right in front of his body, and bounces behind. And you would like to think, and I know that sometimes you just do not know in the Champions League or European football, that they have had a look at that and said, carry on. So Bodø 0, Manchester City 0. Third corner for Manchester City from this right-hand side, looking for better. Remember, Elaine should have scored from the first one. Here it is from Foden, deep to the back post. Defender just gets his head to that, and it's deflected out for a throw-in near the corner flag on the far side. Gundersson it was, who is as I say, has come into the team having served a 3-match suspension after he was sent off here in the match against Monaco. Offside flag, that's careless from Manchester City. After taking the throw, it was played back, and throw-in taker was offside, so Bodø have a free kick. 20 minutes played, Chris, still 0-0.
Yeah, I've enjoyed the start. I think Bodø have been competitive. They look like they're going to break out and counter well against Manchester City. Manchester City in control. One thing about Bodø which we haven't talked about is, you know, their season, what ended at the end of November. You just wondered whether they're a bit undercooked coming into this.
Well, they've been in Marbella to play a couple of matches, but their last competitive match was that Champions League game in December against Borussia Dortmund. Manchester City have played 10 matches in the last month since then, and Bodø, that's the other side of it. I mean, they surely will be fresh. They had a holiday after that match on December the 10th. He sent the players away, did Kjetil Knutsen. Then they started their own training programme. They all came back together on January the 2nd. They had a small pre-season in Marbella where they won a couple of matches, and now here they are back home in Bodø, taking on Manchester City, and it's Bodø who've won the ball back on the halfway line with Blomberg. Blomberg now taking it into the box. Challenge comes in on him from a lane. He's got it back to the back post. Headed. Oh, it's in! It's in from Herc. 2 yards out at the back post. Past Donnarumma and into the net. And listen to this. Bodø Glimt are winning 1-0 against Manchester City. Manchester, you can probably hear this noise all the way from the Arctic Circle. Bodø Glimt 1, Manchester City 0, and this huge Champions League shock is on.
Well, it is, and you mentioned that they've looked really dangerous on the counter-attack. Bodø, I think it's Elaine who makes a terrible error, goes in to win the ball, misses it, and then Blomberg just drives down that right-hand side, and he has the presence of mind to clip the ball to the far post. And there's Kasper Herc at the far post. He's been linked with Norwich City today, I see. He gets up brilliantly well and nods the ball in between Donnarumma's legs. It's a really clever header down into the floor. I think they're checking for an offside, but what a pick out from Blomberg, and Bodø take the lead.
Kasper Herc. Well, they've put in some really spirited performances in the Champions League. Bodø Glimt never won a match in the Champions League proper, but here they are 1-0 up, and the header down at the back post from he's a big man, Herc, isn't he, the number 9? Don't tell him about the journey, by the way, from Norwich to Bodø, or he won't be interested in that.
3 flights, yeah.
3 flights, Kasper. But 1-0, he's the goal scorer, and right now he's the hero for Bodø Glimt as Berg clears the ball away downfield. And really, it just wasn't terribly well defended by Manchester City. And now Blomberg, Herc's in the middle, Herc scores! Right-footed! Manchester City all over the place. Rodri's got his arms in the air. Rodri's saying, what is going on? Well, what's going on is that Bodø Glimt are 2-0 up on Manchester City.
Well, it's Elaine again, really poor. He dallies in possession, and all of a sudden we mentioned Bodø breaking out. They're 3-on-2. It's just a long, hopeful punt, and Blomberg nicks the ball off Elaine, helps the ball forward, and Herc all alone at the far post. The ball just bounces and sits up. Was he 12 yards out? Level with the far post. It's a brilliant finish, composed. The inside of his foot wraps it past Donnarumma. What a finish, and Herc's price tag now possibly doubled with that double.
I noticed as well the coach, Kjetil Knutsen, this absolute hero here in Bodø. He was so excited he nearly slipped over on the side of the pitch in his celebrations. And Kasper Herc, well, he had the freedom of the Arctic Circle in the penalty area.
Absolutely, the first one he ghosted in, Kasper at the far post.
That's terrible. Here's Haaland. Haaland slips over. They loved that as well. And then Herc, who's on a hat-trick, he slips over and handles the ball. near the centre circle. But, well, I think that's 2 goals in 2 minutes from Kasper Herk. 21 now for the season, as it were, the sort of 25 domestic season plus the Champions League for him. But he's certainly making a name for himself, if he hadn't already, in the Champions League this season with the performances that he's put in. So after the Manchester derby on Saturday at Old Trafford, now this. Bodø Glimt 2, Manchester City 0. And I'm not sure many were expecting this scoreline.
No, we weren't. I've got to say, you've got to question Max Allain for both the goals. Had a really difficult game, didn't he, against Manchester United, taken off at half-time, but he has looked decidedly shaky. But fair play to Bodø. They have pounced, they've broken out, and they've looked a real threat. I think only once this season they haven't scored at home, and that was in the game against Monaco.
And Allain, of course, who really should have scored right at the start of the game.
Point.
And then he's been caught out. Husanov was fighting fires, wasn't he? And on that second goal, he dived into the challenge on Blumberg, but Blumberg cleverly just beat him and then crossed over for Herk. A wonderful right-footed finish past Donnarumma. A header and a finish as Manchester City come forward, but that's cleared away inside the penalty area, although they haven't cleared the box yet, and Shervold has to clear it now right-footed up towards, Manchester City win it back. Foden. Now Manchester City, they're right up against it here now in these conditions. Ball into the penalty area. Reinders trying to find a position. Here's the cross. Goalkeeper Heikenkun's got his hands to it, but just deflected it across the box. Could have dropped anywhere. Manchester City back in position. Here is Rodri. Rodri to Ait Nouri. Ait Nouri then back to Rodri again. Bodø pinned back into their defensive third. Manchester City trying to respond, but if you've just switched on, what a shock scoreline we have. Bodø Glimt leading Manchester City by 2-0. Bodø Glimt. Even I can work that one out, Chris. You don't need to have an A-level in Norwegian. Did see at breakfast this morning as City played through. Foden just outside the box. Haaland got a touch. It runs across the edge of the penalty area, and Bodø are back in possession with Hauge. Then a right-footed ball by Blumberg to Bjørkan. City have been able to get men back, but Hauge again, tall, fair head. Hauge, left-sided forward, goes back into his own half. Yes, I was slightly surprised to see at breakfast this morning on the television John Souché's Poirot, which was translated into Norwegian. Poirot in Norwegian. Here is
that's tricky one, that, but I suppose it's Manchester City have got to sort of work out a way how to win this game from here.
A little bit like Poirot. Here they come with Shervold on the right-hand side, comes back centrally, and Bodø Glimt are now trying to get a third goal against Manchester City. Chested down. Tottenham only drew 2-2 here. It's Hauge on the left-hand side. He's challenged by Ait Nouri. The Bodø number 10 gets it back, then crosses. That comes off Ait Nouri, bounces up in the air. Then the left-back, Bjørkan, committing the foul. Yeah, just went in a little heavily there on Shirky, and it's a free kick to Manchester City halfway inside their own half. So again, I know people will be tuning in all of the time. Drive, by the way, finished early tonight, but we will have a full roundup of the news at half-time, which is round about 20 minutes away, given added time, and then a pass from
Allain again. He's really
O'Reilly,
struggling.
Straight out of play for a throw.
And you can see his manager Pep Guardiola there trying to encourage him and applaud him to keep going. It's been a really difficult night for him so far. He's just got to try and compose himself. Manchester City problems in that area, hence paying the money for Mark Gahey, but Husanov and Allain pairing up once again tonight. They played so well at Newcastle together.
Yeah, well, you know, that performance gave no indication of what was coming in the Manchester derby, and here tonight as Bodø. Here is the 2-goal Herk. Oh, does well, plays it to Bjørkan, then back in field to Herk. His right-footed ball out towards the right-hand side. Yellow shirts pouring forward now, and the ball right across. Herk at the back post, left-footed but straight at Donnarumma, sliding across his 6-yard box. It was from a tight angle. He was stretching for it, Herk, chance of a hat-trick. Donnarumma saves.
Yeah, I think there was an offside in there earlier. Maybe Blomberg had gone a little bit early on that right-hand side, but yeah, Herc angle against him at the far post. But they break so quickly, don't they? They get bodies forward, lots of bodies in the box, and Herc lurking at that far post once again. Donnarumma making the save.
On this icy night here in Bodø, in the north of Norway, Bodø Glimt leading Manchester City by 2-0. 5 live from the BBC, Radio Manchester as well. And also the Champions League final score is up and in operation already tonight. You can find that on the iPlayer and the red button. If you look for it there, click on Champions League final score. You'll hear our commentary with all of the various bits and pieces all the way through the night. Throw into Manchester City inside their own half. I think there's going to be a bit of iciness from Pep Guardiola at half-time as well. If it stays like this, Shirky back to Rodri on the edge of the area. Rodri passing it forward, Reinders with the pass. Berg's got it back though, then to the left-hand side to Herc, then through the middle looking for the run of Fert. But Manchester City, Husinov dealt with that and chips it out to O'Reilly, still in his own left-back position. They are a bundle of energy, aren't they, Bodø? This is classic FA Cup style feel to this match, never mind Champions League.
It is. They're so aggressive in the centre of the park, and as soon as they win the ball back, it's play forward quickly, get runners forward, and they are causing Manchester City all sorts of problems. They're actually saying, you can have the ball, you pop the ball around, but when we win it back, can you deal with us? Can you cope with us? The answer to that so far has been a resounding no.
That is Chris Sutton, Champions League player, Champions League goal scorer. Scored some big goals in this competition, Chris. Barcelona, Juventus. But these are big goals that have been scored by Kasper Herc here tonight, who is a Danish under-19 international, Herc, but he's now 25 years old. And the 2 goals that he scored tonight, this means that this has equalled his career best for a season. 21 goals in all competitions. Heiken passing the ball out from the back, and Edian in the midfield plays it down the right to Blomberg, but Elaine is able to get the ball back from him, and Manchester City start out from the back.
There's just a chance there where Herc had peeled in between Aït-Nouri, the right back, and Husinov. There was a big gap, and had that ball been played in behind, he would have been on for his hat-trick.
Yes, they are, as they should be in this position. They are full of energy, Bodø Glimt. And Manchester City with the ball inside their own half. Rodri, when that second goal went in, it immediately caught my eye. Rodri standing in the middle of his half, throwing his arms up in the air in exasperation. Bodø Glimt 2, Manchester City 0. Commentary come later on Tottenham against Borussia Dortmund. But it is Manchester City now, with less than 15 minutes of the first half to go. Aït-Nouri is challenged. That looked like a foul by Hauge, although I think 7,500 people in yellow and black disagree. Free kick Manchester City.
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange one, Aït-Nouri, in that right back role, because he's a left footer, isn't he? So he's always coming inside, and he's coming inside into bodies, manoeuvred the ball well. Manchester City win a free kick. You've got to say, not having a right footer, they just lack a bit of balance on that right-hand side. They've always looked for that sort of slid pass for a midfield runner, which worked in the early stages, but Bodø have worked that out.
Manchester City actually take this shot. I thought they might have delivered that into the penalty area, but Shirky gets it back. Aït-Nouri now. Aït-Nouri takes on the defender. Right foot across to the back post. Headed across by O'Reilly, looking for Haaland in the middle. That was headed away. Shots deflected wide from the edge of the penalty area. Foden into a crowd of bodies. It hit a body in yellow, bounced wide, corner from the left-hand side.
Yeah, it was good actually from Aït-Nouri. Just criticised him for not using his right foot. He chopped brilliantly in the wide area and stood up a good cross. It's well defended though once again.
So it's a corner that Shirky will take over there on the far side. Right-footed, it's a high in swinger, which gets it deflected back goalwards, I think off a defender. Or was it?
It's Haaland.
It's Haaland who got to it, but wide.
How often do we say this? Haaland on his heels. Ball just floated to the far post. I think it's Rodri who gets up, heads the ball across, and Haaland's 2 yards out, and he just doesn't react. He's under a bit. It's Herc in that near post space area who's maybe he just sees out of his peripheral vision, but he misses the ball completely. Erling Haaland.
However, it's worth making a note. I mean, it must have been at waist height. He tried to stick out a leg, just didn't make contact, and it bounced past the post. So Bodø Glimt 2, Manchester City 0. Weekend before last, I was watching Crystal Palace on an artificial pitch get bundled out of the FA Cup by Macclesfield. Now, here in the Arctic Circle, I'm watching Manchester City playing on an artificial pitch, 2-0 down against one of the rank outsiders. I say that, they were Europa League semi-finalists last season and Conference League quarter-finalists before that. This is a club that is built and built, even though there's no big money behind Bodø Glimt. This is the effect of good management, really. Proper football coaching.
It is. They're a triumph, really. I think they've got 9 Norwegians in the starting lineup.
And local boys as well, who are from here in Bodø. Born likely in the big regional hospital, which is the biggest employer in this area. Here's Ait Nouri down the right-hand side. Ait Nouri. Little ball into Lewis. Lewis with a flick, but that is cleared away. And then it comes off Husanov as he arrives in on the challenge with Helga, and it's out of play for a throw into Bodø. Well, 2-0 up, less than 10 minutes to go to half-time. You know what the formula is. Bodø will want to make sure that they keep Manchester City out and potentially increase their lead themselves.
Absolutely. I think that the way they've attacked and got that pace all the way across that front line, although I say all the way across, I don't think Herc is necessarily the quickest, but he's got pace in and around him, and he can be that focal point, someone to bring his other players into the game. But they've done a job on Manchester City.
Their coach, Kjetil Knutsen, whose reputation is rising and rising, came here in 2017 as the assistant coach back then. He'd had no success before that as a coach. He had no playing career of any distinction. And now he is one of the most famous faces in the Arctic Circle. My opposite number, who commentates for the Norwegian radio, was telling me that he said, I just cannot believe what's happened. He said back in 2018, the general manager at the AGM of Bodø Glimt, Frode Thomassen, told the supporters, we'll never win the league. Less than 10 years ago, and now look at them. They've won the league 4 times. Now they're in the Champions League, and now they're winning 2-0 against Manchester City.
And do you think that Frode is reminded of his comments?
I got the impression from Bjarne, the Norwegian commentator, that these are quotes that are very famous. Bodø in possession, playing the ball back to the edge of his own penalty area.
The other thing about him is, John, is every time a job comes up in England or in Scotland, you see Knutsen's name linked with it.
As Hauge flicks a header on through the middle. Hauge's onto this, still going. Hauge on his left foot, defender's coming back. He's played it back. Oh, and then Herc with a chance just inside the penalty area, opened his body, hit it with his right instep, but well wide by 6 yards.
And there was that focal point. Herc flicking the ball on, and Hauge, blimey, great pace. I thought for a moment there was a possibility of him going down inside the box under pressure. He chops back in, lays the ball back to Herc. Herc just trying to feed the ball into that far corner, a couple of yards wide. As
Manchester City break forward, but the referee's given a decision Bodø's way. Was it out of play, or has he? Anyway,
they carried such a threat, though, haven't they? You think 2-0 up, a lot of teams against Manchester City. I don't know what park the bus is in Norwegian, but they still carry that threat going forward.
Ball's played back to goalkeeper Heiken. Bodø winning 2-0 against Manchester City. All the day's news coming up at half-time, by the way. If you've tuned in to 5 Live for Drive, we will round everything up on what, of course, is a busy time here, where we sit here directly across the North Atlantic. Next stop, Greenland. And in this town, actually, there is a NATO air base just next to the airport, probably 15 minutes away from where we sit here. Manchester City getting the ball back on the halfway line. Here is Husanov to Ait Nouri. Ait Nouri just allows the ball to roll over this artificial surface. City players, most unusually for them these days under Pep Guardiola, they train at home in their own facilities, but change of plan, they wanted to come and train here, Pep Guardiola, last night on this surface. However, they're 2-0 down on it after 2 goals in 2 minutes from Kasper Høeg. And in Norwegian, to park the bus is a parkere bussen.
Did you make that second bit up?
No, Gary has just looked it up.
Yeah.
So there we are. Well, I know that Ait Nouri is now in possession, just down in front of us. Ait Nouri back to the halfway line. And Manchester City with Elaine, right-footed to Ait Nouri, who controls it. The other thing is, really not too many options, because Manchester City have so many players unavailable at the moment for one reason or another. Marmouche, incidentally, is among the substitutes after coming back from the Africa Cup of Nations, but lots of youngsters. Ball played through for Reinders inside the box, but the ball just runs away. I think the defender might have got the touch to that first. Bjørtuft, he did. It is another corner to Manchester City from the left.
Well, Reinders has been so congested in the middle of the pitch, hasn't it? We haven't seen much of Reinders, but a forward run there wins the corner.
Corner taken, back outside the penalty area, flicked on by O'Reilly. Husanov for the chance, played it across the penalty area, hit a defender. Thought he might have gone for goal there, Husanov.
That's unbelievable. What an enormous chance.
Ait Nouri, then Foden, square from Foden, but Reinders was on his heels. There's been too much of that from Manchester City. And back they go to Rodri, who's being put under pressure. Rodri, Champions League winning goal scorer for Manchester City in Istanbul, remember. And now, how the tables can turn, Chris.
They can, but I mean, they've had some reasonable chances, haven't they, City?
Lewis through the middle, Haaland, he had one of those opportunities, couldn't make contact. Foot comes back to Ait Nouri now. Manchester City with Shirky as well. Shirky, lovely little step over, still going. 2 men with him though. Left-footed cross all the way to the penalty area, comes off the head of the defender, and then it's left to bounce out of play by O'Reilly for another corner to City from the left.
He does tickle me, Gunderson. He loves a celebration, whether he makes a tackle or a header. He's always celebrating, pumped up. He's been good though in this first half. Balls into the box, basic, go and win the ball. He's done that well. Jostein
Gunderson, who is one of their Norwegian internationals, but really I'm told only Patrick Berg would probably be in the Norwegian starting lineup. As this corner is played in by Shirky to the near post. O'Reilly was after it, headed away by Gunderson. Comes out to Manchester City. Foden just outside the area. Foden with a dart into the box. Still going, Foden trying to weave a position. Shoots left-footed, but there were 3 men there for Bodø who were able to block it away back towards the halfway line, and it remains 2-0 to the Norwegian side. First time Manchester City have faced Norwegian opposition in any of the European club competitions, as Ait Nouri curls it in left-footed from the right-hand side, and with the in-swing that just takes it directly through to goalkeeper Heiken, who can drop forward and collect it.
Well, it's a terrible crossing position, and the Bodø back line tight and compact. That ball just goes over them, comfortable for the goalkeeper.
Attempts on goal at the moment, Chris, 5 each, and Manchester City with 69% possession. So tonight from 8 o'clock, commentary on Tottenham against Borussia Dortmund. We will obviously keep you up to date with Inter Arsenal as well, but all of the matches in the Champions League. Salford Swindon tonight is on Sports Extra, by the way, and the winners of that will go to play Manchester City in the 4th round of the FA Cup. But lots of matches in the Championship as well. We'll keep it up, keep you across it all as Bodø win the ball back, but then Ait Nouri is able to collect it for Manchester City, and Husanov has the ball at his feet. What have we got? 1 minute of the first 45, and what they've done variously has been described to me as a fairy tale, miraculous, over the course of the past 10 years. Once it began to take off, my friend, My new friend Bjarne, the commentator, said once they really began to get going in 2020, he said it's been party all day long ever since. And now, here the party continues as suddenly all the Bodø supporters get to their feet and start singing that Bodø club song again, trying to get their team, see their team through to half-time with this 2-0 lead, this shock 2-0 lead. Manchester City trying to build something over there with Foden. Ball comes into Shirky on the edge of the penalty area, then across water, Haaland with a chance, left foot, he's hit it wide. And I can see the ball bubbling around in a section behind the goal, which is all packed snow. Haaland with a miss, and it remains 2-0 Bodø.
Yeah, Haaland's movement is absolutely brilliant. He's just a yard behind Gundersen, and as the cross comes in, he moves in front of him. He's 8 yards out, level with the near post, and you would expect the back of the net to bulge. And he hits it wide. It's an incredible miss. They have had the chances, Manchester City, in this first half, but Haaland has been cold in front of goal.
Hardly surprising. But when you see Haaland missing a chance like that, it's another one of those, like I say, with a real cup tie feel tonight, one of those things where you think, is this just destined to be Bodø's night?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, his movement was absolutely brilliant, but had that earlier chance as well where he was hesitant with the knockback from Rodri. Hasn't happened for Haaland. Manchester City are going to have to work really hard to make it happen.
Bodø Glimt 2, Manchester City 0. A real turn-up for the books. And there's the half-time whistle. What a half that's been for Manchester City. After Old Trafford on Saturday, now this. 2-0 down in the Arctic Circle here to Bodø Glimt. And Pep Guardiola, well, who knows what he's going to have to do after this. But what a first half for Bodø Glimt. 2 goals in 2 minutes, midway through the half, from Kasper Høeg. And Bodø Glimt could be on the verge of what would be their first win in the Champions League proper, and an enormous Champions League surprise. Chris Sutton.
Yeah, they've been absolutely first class the way that they've set up. They've sat deep at times, but when they've gone forward with pace and got numbers forward and caused Manchester City all sorts of problems at the back. It's a Manchester City backline who have really struggled. Manchester City, a lot of work to do in this second half. You can't say it's a weak Manchester City team. Pep Guardiola has gone strong. As I said, they've got a lot of work to do in this second half.
Gone strong, but misfiring, terrible goals to defend. And half-time here in Bodø. Bodø Glimt 2, Manchester City 0.
Whatever happens, it's an incredible story coming out of the Arctic Circle. John Murray and Chris Sutton are there watching Bodø Glimt and Manchester City. Kasper Høeg linked with Norwich City, Chris Sutton. On the evidence of that first half, you'd be more than happy to see him make that move.
Well, I've got to say, I feel really sorry for the Norwich City hierarchy. They should have bought him before tonight's game. He's probably doubled in price. They won't be able to afford him now. But he's taken his goals, so well. He has done. I mean, he could have had a hat-trick arguably in the first half. He's led the line well. He's got pace in and around him. But they have. They've had their break. They finished their season at the end of November. I know John mentioned they had the Champions League game against Dortmund. You just wondered whether they'd be sharp enough coming into this. But boy, have they looked sharp and compact and organised. And they've carried a real threat going forward. They've given up possession, said to Manchester City, you have the ball. And what a shock on there will be here tonight if they can see this through.
And Manchester City, as John was saying, have had chances in that first half. They haven't looked sharp, surprisingly, in front of goal. But that's not really where the biggest problems are. It's the way that Bodø Glimt are able to get forward and to kind of exploit them in transition.
Yeah, absolutely. And Max Allain, I've got to say, is a young player. I mentioned I watched him play at Newcastle in the League Cup, and he was absolutely superb that evening, but had a difficult game at the weekend. And tonight he's been caught out on a couple of occasions. Looks like his confidence is shot to pieces. I wonder whether Pep will hook him at half-time as he did at the weekend. He's got to try and see this through. But the one thing is Bodø, they're 2 up, but they still look a real threat when they are breaking on.
Chris, thank you very much. We'll be back with Chris Sutton and John Murray shortly for the second half of that game. Bodø Glimt 2, Manchester City 0 at half-time. We'll bring you the latest BBC News very shortly on 5 Live, but we're going to head to our second commentary of the evening, which is the 8 o'clock kick-off between Spurs and Borussia Dortmund. It is a massive night for the under-pressure Tottenham boss Thomas Frank as Spurs host Borussia Dortmund in North London. Our commentary team at 8 o'clock, Alistair Bruce Ball and former Tottenham goalkeeper Paul Robinson joins us now. Paul, Thomas Frank's future, obviously a hot topic at the moment. On Monday Night Club last night, Rory Smith said he's in purgatory and is only still in charge because there's no obvious replacement. Is this just a stay of execution, do you think?
Oh, that's a difficult one to answer. I like Thomas Frank, and I think the way that he handled himself and what he did at Brentford earned him the opportunity to be the manager of Tottenham Hotspur, a team that finished 17th in the Premier League last year. It's going to take time. The greatest gift you can give any good manager, any good coach, is time. The dressing room is full of poor recruitment over years, not just from the last manager, but from the manager before. He's got a squad of players that don't necessarily do what he wants to do. He is in trouble at the moment because this fan base are an extremely knowledgeable fan base. You know, having played here and having a great relationship with a set of supporters, they don't like what they see, and they turn up week in and week out, and they can see a lot of flaws in performances, as in defensive performances, and not what they want to see going forward. He's under pressure tonight, Kelly. He really is. But I think if you employ a manager less than 6 months ago to do a job for the longevity, I think you need to give him time and you need to trust in the manager that you brought in. But there will be increasing pressure from outside noises without a shadow of a doubt.
I mean, the panel last night were pretty much in agreement with what you said, in that they like Thomas Frank, they value him as a manager, but sometimes you get to the stage where that relationship between, and it doesn't sound like it's between the board and Thomas Frank, but maybe between the players and certainly between the fans and Thomas Frank, might go beyond repair. And that, although there is no obvious replacement at the moment, there are players who are now available. Enzo Maresca, Xabi Alonso would be the kind of big names that would, but then you've got Oliver Glasner, who may or may not be Crystal Palace manager for the rest of the season. You've got Andoni Iraola out of contract in the summer. There are going to be names that will start to be linked, which won't help Thomas Frank. But Ali, despite all the negativity around Spurs, they could, if they get finish in the top 8.
Yeah, I mean, they start tonight on 11 points, just behind Dortmund in the table on goals scored. And actually just walking up to the stadium this evening, Kelly, I actually thought, what a shame in a way that Tottenham are in this situation going into this game. This should be the most exciting group game of this Champions League campaign for them. You know, Borussia Dortmund, finalists 2 seasons ago, perennial competitors in this Champions League, scoring goals for fun in the competition this season. You know, and a Tottenham team playing well under Thomas Frank. I mean, it's the kind of night that this stadium is made for. I now think, Kelly, I mean, just sitting in the commentary seat here, Ian Dennis was sitting right here 3 days ago. West Ham scored that late goal. Half the Tottenham fans have already left. The rest of them, pretty much, are all singing "You're getting sacked in the morning." That makes it an incredibly difficult atmosphere for Thomas Frank, you know, and the players to try and perform in tonight. And I also wonder about the mindset of the fans, because we know how football fans think. They'll come fearing the worst. Do they almost want the worst to happen? For those that aren't convinced by Thomas Frank, do they almost want it to go wrong? But you know, if they don't start well, if they concede early, you know what it can get like in here. So let's see. And given all the players Thomas Frank is missing as well, if they can pull this off and win the game and, you know, and get themselves into that top 8 tonight, that's going to be some result.
It really will. And Thomas Frank has asked the fans to back the players. And he said, if we keep the support, then magic can happen, particularly, Paul, against Borussia Dortmund, because they are an unpredictable side in this competition and in the Bundesliga. But there will be opportunities for Tottenham. It's just about how they take them.
Tottenham have done extremely well in the Champions League, as they did in the Europa League last season, obviously remaining Europa League champions, and they've continued that form in Europe this season. They're sitting in a really good position, clean sheets wise, defensively wise, points wise. They're looking to progress into that top 8 with ease, but they come up against the Dortmund side, who they've only lost 2 games since the 18th of October against Manchester City and Leverkusen in a domestic cup competition. In the league, they're unbeaten in the Bundesliga since then. Yes, they're second behind Bayern Munich. They're cut adrift of Bayern Munich, but they're a team that are in good form, and they'll be coming here tonight full of confidence. In all honesty, where the two teams are at the moment, this is a game that Tottenham do not want. They're playing against the German side, who are full of confidence under the manager. They understand their formation, they understand how to play their system, they're quite set in their ways, and they will cause Tottenham a lot of problems. But this is one of the games where you look at tonight and you go, Tottenham have got numerous players out. Kudus, Paulinho, Maddison, Kulusevski, Davis, Sarr, Bentancur, Richarlison, Van de Ven suspended. This is the type of game when all of a sudden they'll get a result. It's going to be a really fascinating listen tonight. It really is.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. Maybe not from a Tottenham perspective, but it could be, as you say, absolutely fascinating game and absolutely fascinating story coming out of Tottenham. Their game against Borussia Dortmund kicks off then at 8 o'clock. Paul Robinson and Alistair Bruce-Ball, thank you very much for now. We'll be back with you at the end of Bodø Glimt's game against Manchester City. Bodø leading 2-0 at the break. Time now, though, for the very latest BBC News with Alison Hughes.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Thanks, Kelly. President Macron has accused the US of trying to weaken and subordinate Europe. The French leader was speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos after Donald Trump, who's due there tomorrow, repeated his desire to take over Greenland. The US president said there was no going back on his plan, and he claimed Greenland was imperative for national and world security. Mr. Macron said some of Washington's threats were unacceptable.
We need more growth, we need more stability in this world. But we do prefer respect to bullies, we do prefer science to plotism, and we do prefer rule of law to brutality.
Donald Trump is due to give a press conference at the White House shortly. We'll bring you the details of what he's had to say in the next news bulletin and later tonight in Tony Livesey's programme. There'll also be more information on the live page on the BBC News website. Earlier, Mr Trump labelled the British government's agreement to hand over the Chagos Islands to Mauritius as an act of great stupidity. Washington had previously supported the deal, as our political correspondent Harry Farley explains.
Under a year ago, Keir Starmer made that first trip to the Oval Office. And one of the big achievements that Downing Street officials came out of that visit thinking they had secured was the backing of Donald Trump for this Chagos deal. The US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, when the deal was signed in May, adding that he thought it was a great deal. And that continued up until last night with this extraordinary post from Donald Trump.
Opposition parties have criticised the government for approving plans for a huge new Chinese embassy in London. Critics have concerns about security, saying the site could be used as a base for spying. Cheshire Police say they're disappointed the Crown Prosecution Service has decided not to charge the child killer Lucy Letby with more crimes. The force had asked the CPS to consider prosecuting 9 new cases of murder and attempted murder. Letby is serving 15 life sentences for murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 7 others. And Russell Brand has appeared via video link at court, charged with 2 further offences of rape and sexual assault. The comedian and actor has previously denied 5 sexual offences.
A new era of Formula One is about to dawn.
I think the biggest step the sport has ever seen.
There are new rules, new cars, and a brand new team.
In Formula One, it's just absolute, brutal, pure competition.
And the next generation of star drivers are taking us along for the ride too.
I'm gonna go like a madman.
If you want to make it, first of all, you have to believe that you have what it takes.
The biggest shake-up of F1's rulebook has been years in the making.
Somebody's gonna get it right and somebody's gonna get it wrong.
I'm Rosamund Pike, and this is F1 Back at Base, a new era. Listen first on BBC Sounds.
This is 5 Live Sports, the Champions League with Kelly Cates.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
We will be heading back to the Arctic Circle for the second half of Bodø Glimt against Manchester City very shortly, with the home side 2-0 up against City. Then at 8 o'clock, our commentary is Tottenham against Dortmund, with updates from Inter against Arsenal. Elsewhere, Mohamed Salah has been named in Liverpool's squad for their Champions League game at Marseille tomorrow. Ibrahima Konate misses out, though, with a personal issue. French club Marseille are in talks to sign Arsenal midfielder Ethan Nwaneri on loan for the rest of the season. Discussions about a deal are ongoing. A loan fee is one of the aspects of the deal that's believed to be worked on. Everton say that Jack Grealish has a foot injury. He'll be reviewed by a specialist in the next few days. Let's head back then to Bodø Glimt, where Chris Sutton and John Murray have been watching them, the home side, go 2-0 up against Manchester City. And it's hard to see, Chris, or hard to pinpoint where Manchester City need to improve, because it's been off all over the pitch.
Yeah, I think that's fair. They have been wasteful. You know, they have had chances, haven't taken them. Haaland hasn't got his shooting boots on this evening. You think of that early chance, which John mentioned, Max Alain, 4 yards out, middle of the goal, should have scored. He didn't. But no, in every department they have been outplayed, and that's the worrying thing. Just having a look whether Manchester City, they're coming out now, whether they're going to make any changes. I think, you know, they've got the possibility of Doku. I wonder whether Alain would stay on or not. I can't count at this minute in time. It's getting a little bit cold.
I think it's the same 11.
So yeah, it does. Yeah. I mean, he hooked Alain at the weekend, so you know he's having faith in him in this second half. But I can still see in the second half, if Manchester City don't buck their ideas up, that that Bodø will get chances, and they get another one. It's going to be nigh impossible for Manchester City to win the game. And let's get it right. That was the aim at the start of tonight. To go through, make sure they won tonight, and then avoid those playoffs. Pep Guardiola's got, you know, so many injuries to deal with at this moment in time. That would be an absolute nightmare for Manchester City if they didn't get the job done tonight and then end up messing up against Galatasaray and falling out of that top 8.
Well, can Manchester City get back in it? We will find out as the second half about to get underway in the company of Chris Sutton and John Murray.
Yes, thank you, Kelly. Welcome everyone back here inside the atmospheric Osmira Stadium, 15 minutes away from the port of Bodø. 15 minutes walk, that is. It's all very compact, and you don't have to go too far to get to where you want to be in this little town. And where everyone wants to be is inside here watching this. The Bodø Glimt players have just gone into a huddle, all in yellow. Same team for them to start the second half as well. Heiken in goal, Shervold, Bjørtuft, Gundersen and Bjørkan in the back line. Then Patrick Berg with Evian and Fert either side of him. Blomberg on the right. He set up both goals for Kasper Høeg, and Hauge was involved in the second of them as well. And Pep Guardiola, same team again as the whistle goes and the second half gets underway. Donnarumma in goal, then Ait Nouri as the right back, Husinov and Alain, O'Reilly as the left back, in midfield Rodri with Lewis, and then Cherki, Reinders, Foden and Haaland, who again has been off key. Couple of chances, but shot wide with one, didn't get contact with another. And so 2-0 it is as the second half begins. And Bodø Glimt, who are down in the elimination places but with a couple of wins, might just find their way through into the knockout stages, although they have got to go to Atletico Madrid next week. Mind you, the way that they've played in their first season in the Champions League proper, you probably wouldn't put anything past them. And Manchester City, if they go on to lose this, then it's entirely possible they might not finish in the top 8, depending on other results. So it is City in this all-green kit, the same green kit that they won in the Bernabeu in their last match in the Champions League, now losing here to one of the real outsiders. And Alain, who has caught out mistakes for both of the goals, the young man, as Hauge slips over in the centre circle. Husinov, right-footed, actually plays the ball all the way across the field, and O'Reilly has to slam the brakes on the artificial pitch, backpedal, keep the ball in play. Now he's just stumbled and I think he just turned his ankle there, but he's okay. Ball's played forward, Bjørkan heads it away. Bodø then tried to slip it through, but Elaine was able to come across and prevent the ball from running through to Høeg. And now Manchester City through the middle. Cherki out to the right-hand side. Ait Nouri, who's got space over there on the far side. He takes on Bjørkan, beats him, still going. Ait Nouri uses Rodri behind him. Then all the way back centrally to Alain. Now from Reinders to O'Reilly. Reinders gets it back as Manchester City play towards the end where their 400 fans are in the open terrace to our left with the flags fluttering behind them. Rodri squared from him to Lewis with a run to the edge of the penalty area. Haaland trying to make himself available for the ball through from Shirky, but too many yellow shirts in there. Again, Manchester City continue to press. BBC Radio Manchester listeners are with us on 5 Live as well again, as O'Reilly has the ball at his feet. Reinders now, he drives into the penalty area, shoots from the angle, but it's straight at goalkeeper Heiken, who can just drop forward and gather the ball into his chest. And again, thousands of gloved voodoo hands are clapping their team. Still 2-0.
Yeah, they've dominated the ball at the start of this second half. Manchester City patient, and Reinders off the left hand side. A gap just opened up for him, went for power with the shot, but comfortable for Heiken.
Manchester City then win the ball back on the halfway line, but it just bounced away actually from Shirky. However, here's Rodri with the ball at his feet. Rodri slips the pass forward to Foden, still in the central third of the field. Got a feeling, Chris, it's going to be eyes left, isn't it, for most of this half for us. But the thing is, Bodø have shown that when they break with real intent and purpose.
And because of the way Manchester City play, and they get the full-backs really high up the pitch. You saw the crossfield ball from Rodri, which was cut out at the start of the second half, and Bodø had numbers forward. It's just a careless pass.
And there we are, careless pass from Lewis. And now it's brought forward from centre field by Blumberg again. Hauga's pass into the penalty area, brilliant takedown from Evian, and then the ball is deflected back towards the edge of the penalty area. Still though, Bodø causing a real threat. They just break so quickly, and suddenly they're in the penalty area with another opportunity that Manchester City have survived this time.
They're so unlucky. What a save from Donnarumma. It was a brilliant crossfield clip, and Evian, his first touch is absolutely sensational. With the outside of his left foot, he should score. Donnarumma gets down to his right-hand side. That big right boot making the save. Shot was on target. City nearly 3 down.
And that's like the Manchester derby all over again, isn't it? With Donnarumma coming to the rescue. 2-0 at Old Trafford. 2-0 here in the Arctic Circle. Lewis on the edge of the Bodø penalty area, but that comes to nothing. And it's played up for Herc to chase, and Elaine is able to see it out of play for a throw-in to Bodø just inside the Manchester City half. Well, they've seen some real thrills and spills, these Bodø Glimt supporters, in the Champions League this season. Juventus came here. That was a real thriller when Juventus won it with a goal in added time by 3-2. 2-2 draw with Tottenham. Lost 1-0 to Monaco. And they've had decent results away from home as well, but haven't been able to find the win. But maybe tonight, as Manchester City, Husinov was strong there as he withstood the challenge and kept the ball. And now O'Reilly. You see the options are for Manchester City, for Pep Guardiola. And, you know, it's not often we say this, and they have a long list of players who are not available. But Marmoush is on the bench, Ake, Doku, and then Mukasa, who's making his way. But then youngsters really, Charlie Gray, Kian Noble, Stephen Mfuni, Tyrone Samba as well on the bench for the first time, the son of Christopher Samba, the former Blackburn Rovers central defender. Those are the options that Pep Guardiola has as Manchester City lose it, and it's flicked forward by Thert, and now Hauga just inside the Manchester City half. Down the left wing he goes. Rodri is with him, but Hauga holds it up, plays it infield, and then Björkan back into his own half for Gundersen, and Bodø can turn and start again and take it up towards the halfway line. So a real turn up in the making here. Manchester City 2-0 down, and the ball is played through the middle to Herc, and then to his left, and it is chipped into the net, but the offside flag is up, as we suspected it might be, but nevertheless they've got the ball in the net for a third time.
You know what, I think Herc is saying you should have left that to me, because initially, I mean, Rodri looks like an old man turning like that. I wonder whether Herc is onside, you know, and he takes a decent enough first touch, and Evian, who is in an offside position, then finishes it. He is offside, but Herc there would have had the chance to finish and get his hat-trick.
Yeah, and we're waiting, but I'm pretty sure that the video assistant referee, Robert Schroeder, watching probably thousands of miles away, is ruling on this. Still, it says goal check. I mean, that had to be offside, surely. We've seen it on our television screen here in front of us. And yeah, then play does get underway again.
Slightly worried about my eyesight there, John, just for a second.
They had us wondering, didn't they? Bodø Glimt 2, Manchester City 0 on this freezing night here. I mean, you've been to Tromsø, haven't you?
Yeah.
Which is hundreds and hundreds of miles north of here. Although I would say to you, Chris, I was colder at Derby County against Leeds a week past Sunday. Balls flicked forward.
Yeah, it's quite a cold place, Derby, at times, isn't it? I mean, the worry for Manchester City, I think it was Hauge who got away from Rodri on that left-hand side. Rodri, he turned like one of the ferries which we saw in the harbour this morning.
Yes, on the way down the coast to Stavanger or Bergen or somewhere like that. That's where the coach lives. Kjetil Knutsen lives in Bergen, which is over 1,000 kilometres away. He commutes to Bodø. Doesn't seem to have stopped him.
Wouldn't like to be his driver.
I'm not sure he goes by road, round in the fjords. Here's O'Reilly. We can still see snow on the red rooftops of the wooden houses behind the goal to our left, behind the Manchester City fans. There's another City attack. Comes to nothing, and Bodø have it back. Ball played down the line, but that left-footed pass forward from Sherwold straight out of play, and it's a throw to Manchester City.
They can't find the flow, John, can they, Manchester City, in this second half? I mean, Bodø just happy to sit off in their. I mean, they're 4-4-2 out of possession at times, and City dominating the ball, but as soon as they come into a central area, that aggression from Bodø, and then they just maraud forward.
Yes, by rights, if there's one place you should be able to find your flow, it's in the Arctic Circle. Here's Reinders carrying the ball forward towards the edge of the penalty area. Defender came in. Berg actually just got his foot to it, the number 7, the defender, which has deflected it behind for a goal kick. Doing Patrick Berg exactly what he does. He's an excellent shield, box-to-box midfielder, but a corner to Manchester City.
He gets back well. Reinders just for a second got him behind that Bodø midfield.
Corner from the left. Shirky to take it. The Manchester City flags framed behind him. Shirky, this is a very deep one towards the back post. Header on it by the defender Gundersen, and he's been fouled. Whistle goes. Free kick to Bodø inside their own penalty area, and Gundersen has stayed down, as I'm sure you might have expected. So he might need some treatment, which of course would mean he'd have to go off the field, and the referee is standing over and saying, come on, either get to your feet. You know, they might be little Bodø Glimt, but everyone knows how to manage a match these days, and now he eventually gets to his feet.
He's been good, hasn't he, when balls have gone into the Bodø box. Gundersen, he's been there to attack it and head the ball away.
They actually signed him from Tromsø, and Tromsø are the bitter rivals of Bodø Glimt. There's quite the rivalry between those clubs. Viking Stavanger are now the champions. Bodø Glimt no longer the Norwegian champions. They've finished a point ahead of them, so watch out for them in the Champions League next season. But Norway's representatives are doing very nicely indeed here, and perhaps taking it to their final match. Manchester City home to Galatasaray next Wednesday night, when all of the matches are played on the same night, all 18 matches. So join us for that wherever we are. We don't know yet, do we, Chris, where we're going to be sent next Wednesday night. City through to Reinders with a chance, but hits it wide from the angle, left side of the penalty area. We were right behind the line of the shot, and it was always going wide and flicking the outside netting.
Yeah, and Heiken, the Bodø goalkeeper, saying to his defender, switch on. Lovely touch, I think it was from Lewis, to allow the Reinders to take the ball in his path. Left-hand side of the box, went for power. And what, a yard and a half wide of that right-hand post. You can imagine it getting nervy in here if City do get a goal back, though.
Yeah, you just switched on to 5 Live. Early finish to drive tonight for this double bill of Champions League commentaries. Ali Bruce Ball and Paul Robinson, who were actually here last season for the semi-final in the Europa League. They'll bring you commentary on Tottenham against Borussia Dortmund as Hauge brings it forward. Right foot shot! Oh, it's in! Past Donnarumma and into the top corner! Some scoreline this in the Champions League! Bodø Glimt 3, Manchester City 0. Bodø Glimt, who have never won a match in the Champions League proper. Well, what a way to break your duck this is. Listen to this roar. Jens Petter Hauge makes it Bodø Glimt 3, Manchester City 0. One of the scorelines in the Champions League. What a shock. What a turn-up.
Yeah, and I mentioned Rodri. He's looked tired in this second half. He can't move. He's like Robocop. And they win the ball back, pop it out left. Hauge drives inside, and from 25 yards, I mean, Donnarumma is a top-class goalkeeper. He doesn't even move. Hauge with a howitzer into the top corner. It is a brilliant finish. Manchester City getting battered in Bodø. What a performance.
Well, Hauge, you like that? 3-0. Well, no one saw this. I mean, I was expecting this to be a real contest because they're a good team. We know that from having seen and followed their matches in the Champions League and in Europe in recent seasons. I mean, last season, I don't know whether you saw the match against Lazio, which I watched on the television, the quarter-final. That was an incredible match that they won on a penalty shootout in Rome against Lazio. So, you know, they've got a long list of famous results, but nothing. I mean, this tops the lot.
I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Thoroughly deserved this. Absolutely isn't a fluke.
As City try to do something about it. Haaland in the middle stretching, couldn't get there. Foden with a shot, that's deflected. Back to the edge of the penalty area, but that's all given away. And now O'Reilly on his right foot. Then Shirky, his shot, it's in! It's into the bottom corner, and Manchester City have got a goal back straight away. Pinpoint effort, edge of the area. Bodø Glimt 3, Manchester City 1 now.
Well, they've defended well all evening, Bodø, but they're careless with the defending in this situation. And Shirky, you can hear how quiet the place has gone as a forward run initially from Rico Lewis. Haaland just can't quite get on the end of it, lunges at the ball, shot from Foden, cannons off the Bodø player, and then Riley, really good feet on the edge of the box, feeds the ball to Shirky, who's on the edge of the D centrally, and he goes for power with his right foot, takes a little deflection, goes past Heiken in the Bodø goal. Heiken flinging himself to that right-hand side, 3-1.
Foul by Rodri, that's the reason for the outrage that you can hear from the home supporters. Foul on Evian in the centre circle, yellow card for Rodri. So a free kick for Bodø, but Shirky scoring, 2 minutes after Hauge made it 3-0. So that's just blunted the atmosphere slightly, but still have a 2-goal lead.
Yeah, it went really quiet, didn't it, when Shirky scored. Rodri getting the yellow card there. Just wonder how long he's going to last. This surface doesn't seem to be suiting him in the second half.
So Manchester City now having got their goal on the scoreboard to our left, to our right, just down here. But 3-1 it says in big white letters on the blue background. And Bodø come again. And Blomberg is put over by Rodri. Oh, it's a second yellow card. Rodri's off. The referee can't get his red card out of his pocket, but there it is. He knew it. They were breaking away. Blomberg was causing problems again, and now Rodri's off. Manchester City are down to 10 men, and Bodø Glimt lead by 3-1.
Well, I've got to say, I don't think Rodri can have any complaints. Pep Guardiola having a word with the assistant referee on the far side of the pitch from us, saying that's harsh, but Rodri pulls Blomberg back. Blomberg gets the wrong side of him. Manchester City lose the ball, and he's walking off now. He had to go, Rodri, for a second yellow. I don't know how many seconds between the first and the second one. It's reckless from Rodri. really daft for such an experienced player.
Yeah, just a hand on the shoulder. Blomberg went down, and now Bodø Glimt a 2-goal lead and a man advantage after Manchester City has the ball into the Manchester City penalty area, headed down by Husanov. He very nearly headed it straight to Herc, but Elaine was able to clear it away. What a night, what a match.
Just incredible. And every time the ball goes into the Manchester City box, you feel something's going to happen. And more often than not, it has.
Well, City without Ruben Dias, obviously. John Stones, we don't know when he's going to be available again. Guardiola's out long term. Matthias Nunez not here either. As Bodø have the ball with Evian on the edge of the area, sets up Hauge, hits the crossbar, and it bounces still inside the penalty area. Back it comes, Blomberg dancing, then the back heel into a lane, and it bounces behind for a corner to Bodø after Hauge curls it against the top of the crossbar.
Well, it's a couple of yards further forward from where he scored the goal. It's brilliant from Hauge, the way he bends the ball, his technique off the crossbar into safety, but they are putting Manchester City to the sword.
Well, it's all happening here in the Arctic Circle. Berg with the corner to the near post. That's headed away by Ait Nouri. Not sure they'll have ever had a night like this here. Here's Evian dancing across the edge of the penalty area, then playing it back where it's worked by Björkan out to the left-hand side. Less than 2 minutes between Rodri's first yellow card and his second. So Manchester City's first red card of the season, and it comes here in Bodø, who are coming forward again. Berg's ball into the box, the angle's tight. Oh! Herc is there in the middle, puts the ball in, but the offside flag is up, and the goal will not stand. And for the second time in this second half, Bodø have had the ball in the Manchester City net, but it is ruled out. This might be a little tighter, Chris. What do you think?
Well, it's Herc lurking at the far post, and it's the initial ball through.
So it is offside.
I don't know whether it's the left back Björkan, who was half a yard offside.
So it remains Bodø Glimt 3, Manchester City 1, but City down to 10 men after Rodri was sent off in the just into the last half hour of the match. Manchester City, Pep Guardiola putting out a strong team here tonight, but Bodø coming forward again. There is no let up from Kjetil Knutsen's team. They might be 3-1 up, they might have a 2-goal advantage. City might have got that goal to make it 3-1, but Bodø are saying, listen, we'll go for a fourth.
They've been so aggressive, all in yellow. They're not a mellow yellow, are they?
They certainly are not. Well, Alistair Bruce-Ball and Paul Robinson will be listening to this, because they're going to bring you the commentary on Tottenham against Borussia Dortmund, and for them, having been there, I think they'll consider this to be no surprise that Bodø have been able to do something like this, because of the unique spirit, I think, that there is in this place here in the far north. And Ali is standing by with the team news on that next Champions League commentary match.
Football's a funny game, John. When we were there last season, Tottenham won that second leg of the semi-final by 2-0. Thomas Frank tonight under pressure, names pretty much the only Tottenham team he can name due to absentees. Vicario in goal, Porro, Romero, Danso, Udogi the back four, Gray and Birkvale the two 19-year-olds in midfield, Odebear, Simons and Spence in the left wing role, with Dominic Solanke making a first start of the season, and Kolo Muani the only recognised first team player amongst the 9 outfield players on the bench. Serhu Girassi, top scorer in the Champions League last season, returns to the Dortmund lineup.
Thank you, Ali. So commentary from Alistair Bruce-Ball with Paul Robinson from 8 o'clock, Tottenham against Borussia Dortmund. Arsenal away to the Champions League runners-up Inter. But a busy night, we'll keep you across all of it. And Champions League final score is up and running tonight on the iPlayer and the red button. Click on Champions League final score, you can hear the 5 live commentary, and and see all of the results coming, the video printer with the goals and all of the analysis. But this is 5 Live and Radio Manchester from the BBC, with Manchester City in a right hole here. Shirky hits the ball downfield for Reinders. Reinders tries to get it under control. No sign of Doku being introduced as Shirky tries to slip one through into the penalty area, but that's blocked on the edge of the box. Back to Rico Lewis. Lewis square to Shirky. Shirky then just keeping the ball, and Husanov, Lewis, that's better from Manchester City, knocking it around, quick passes on this artificial surface, but Foden steps in, Foden in the D, left foot shot, but lack power, and Heiken, the goalkeeper, can just drop down to his left onto his knees and pat it safe.
Yeah, played well there, Manchester City, really patient in possession from one end to the other, and Foden getting the break, got his shot off, but straight at Heiken.
So it is Bodø who come forward, attacking towards the end that has the school behind it, and 2 little temporary stands. We've still got hard-packed snow all around the pitch behind the advertising hoardings. But the weather here since we've been here has been absolutely glorious in the few hours of daylight that we've had during the course of the day. But some brilliant views of the jagged peaks in the not too far distant as it goes back to the halfway line for Bodø. And we are now into the last quarter of this match. Another goal for Manchester City, though. It'd be interesting to see, wouldn't it, how Bodø deal with that.
Yeah, and you mentioned Doku. Not seeing him here. I'm a little bit surprised Pep hasn't gone to his bench. They were patient in their build-up before and ended up with Foden getting a shot off, but they need to get up the pitch. Bodø not having a great deal of the ball still, but they're even sort of controlling things out of possession. That was careless, though.
Careless pass from Hauge, who's scored 1 goal, hit the crossbar in the second half, but a misplaced pass. That is a very cheap corner, and actually we are going to see the first change, and it's actually Marmoush who's going to come on. Well, he's straight back from Casablanca, Chris. He's in Casablanca at the weekend, now he's in the Arctic Circle. It's a funny old life, isn't it? And he's coming on to see if he can help to rescue Manchester City. Just the 1 goal so far this season. And actually, on Saturday in the 3rd place match, missed his penalty, didn't he? Which meant that Egypt finished 4th in the tournament. So Marmoush onto the field, and the corner is actually, the referee says you're going to have to take that again. And Phil Foden making way. Remember, he fractured his hand at the weekend, came off at half-time, was playing with a protective bandage on it tonight. So Foden off, Marmoush on. Here is the corner for Manchester City, which is headed down and wide by Elaine, in amongst a crowd of players, but couldn't get it on target, wide, and it remains Bodø Glimt 3, Manchester City 1.
Yeah, he's level with the far post lane, 8 yards out there. He missed a big chance in the first half from a corner where he should have buried it, but under pressure couldn't direct that header on target. So yeah, Manchester City are shaping up now with Marmoush. He's come out off this left-hand side for them.
Marmoush, who has really been a peripheral figure, hasn't he, this season? Marmoush, he had a knee problem, but because he's been away with Egypt, he's missed the last 9 matches. So this is only the 16th appearance that he's had this season, and has scored just the 1 goal this season in the Carabao Cup against Swansea. But as Chris Sutton, Marmoush playing now on the left-hand side as Manchester City come forward. O'Reilly curls one forward, that's headed away by Gunderson, and then Hauge is in on the challenge with Ait Nouri. Hauge goes down and he wins the free kick, and a huge cheer for that. Anything that goes the home way, side's way, you'll hear all of these Bodø fans clapping their gloved hands together. 3-1 it remains.
Yeah, Hauge's got tremendous feet, hasn't he? Scored that brilliant goal, but...
ball passed back to Heiken from Bjørtoft. Bodø don't need any mistakes now. They've got to get everything absolutely right. They do not want to give Manchester City a sniff here. Ball played cross-field. It's slightly behind Bjørkan, but then Hauge can pass it back into central defence to Gunderson, and Bodø Glimt can start again. still in the elimination places, and even if they win, they'll be in the elimination places still. Got to go to Atletico Madrid next Wednesday and get whatever result they need, probably a win, to get through into the knockout stages. First of all, though, never mind the Metropolitano. They've got to deal with this first. This is a massive 20 minutes or so for Bodø Glimt.
It is, but they've got the numerical advantage, of course, haven't they? You think that they're going to get more chances as whether just Manchester City can get another goal back and really put pressure on them.
Manchester City have the ball. They've got possession inside the Bodø half. O'Reilly passing it forward to Marmouche, who's just, as he turned, just ran it out of play. They'll take that, Bodø, very happily, and then Evian has sat down. I think he's certainly indicating that he's got a little bit of cramp. So the referee comes across, and we're going to have a triple change, I think, for Bodø. I think it's going to be a triple change. So probably wisely, their coach Kjetil Knutsen taking the chance to make the change, and it looks as though Sondre Aukland is going to come on, although not yet. Substitutes are gathering on the side of the pitch, but play is back underway. Haaland heading it forward, then Reinders with the pass, Shirky chasing, Bodø deal with it, and Fert gives it to Hauge, who looked as though he was coming off the field a moment ago, but now still going in the centre circle, passing it back into central defence. So 3-1 it is. At one stage, Bodø Glimt was 3-0 up against the former European champions, Hauge, but that goal back from Shirky. However, Rodri's sending off is another part of the story here. Blomberg into the penalty area, and then attempted cutback by Shervold is deflected behind by Elaine for a Bodø corner.
Yeah, good switch of play. Hauge off that left-hand side on his right foot, switching to the right, and Blomberg feeding the right back. Shervold, Lunderlappen. No rush for the corner to be taken here for Bodø.
Yeah, the Norwegian international, the central midfielder, Patrick Berg, comes across. And here we are, we're going to see the changes actually before they take the corner. So it is a triple change. And 2-goal Kasper Herk is coming off, so there'll be no hat-trick for him. But if he wasn't a big enough hero already, now he's elevated his status for number 9 after his 2 goals, the header and the right foot shot. So Outland comes on for him. And Ulrik Saltnes also coming onto the field. And Evian making way in the midfield as Bodø has this corner from the right. Berg waiting to take it. Berg standing with his hands on his hips. 15 minutes of the 90 to play. Berg steps away. Manchester City wait, certainly not hurrying. Berg takes this corner, headed up and away by O'Reilly on the edge of the penalty area. Outland new into the action, challenge for it. City got it away. Marmouche running with it over the halfway line. Shirky back to Marmouche, left side of the box. Marmouche's attempted crosses is blocked away behind for a corner by Gundersen. One corner at one end to the other.
Yeah, do you know what? I think Marmouche took the wrong option. O'Reilly was on his inside, on his right hand side. He elected to go left, Marmouche, and the ball fed back, and Gundersen yet another block, yet another celebration.
Blomberg was the other player who went off, by the way, with Helmerson coming on to play in his position, on that right-sided forward position. Here is the corner for Manchester City, headed up and away. Still Manchester City have got it though. It's turned back to Rico Lewis. 3-1 it remains. Manchester City with Ait Nouri back over there to the right-hand side to Lewis, who just puts his foot on the ball. Just getting to the point where time is running out. Of course, there's no Rodri there now after his sending off. Ait Nouri, he runs his left foot over the top of the ball as it rolls across the surface. It's actually quite a drop away on that side of the pitch. as it comes back now to the left-hand side to Shirky. Shirky gets his head down as he's forced infield by the substitute, Auckland. And then City use the lane again in the centre circle. O'Reilly moving from left to right. Now again, Elaine passes the ball into the path of Lewis, and then down here Shirky goes inside the penalty area, but Bodø have cleared that, and then a foul on the first side on Hauga, and it's a free kick to Bodø halfway inside their own half. I think Manchester City think they might have a case for a penalty there.
Well, Nuri, certainly. I think Hauga, he does have, he gets close to him on the edge of the box, and there is a little shove in the back.
Might have been on the line on the edge of the penalty area. Anyway, VAR have had a look at that and immediately dismissed it. So Bodø 3-1 up on Manchester City, and ball played forward. This is for Auckland to chase after it. O'Reilly then draws the foul, so free kick to Manchester City halfway inside their own half, which they take quickly. Elaine, then Lewis comes deep. Lewis right-footed, just clips it out towards the right-hand side, where that is taken down by Husanov, and the Uzbek now carries the ball forward and uses Ait Nouri out there on the right wing. Ait Nouri back to the halfway line to Elaine, and then Rico Lewis makes himself available in the central area, comes out to Marmouche, and then Marmouche back towards O'Reilly. The Bodø players just happy here just to sit off the ball. Manchester City though, it's whipped in by Husanov. Parlin sticks out a leg at it just inside the penalty area, a sort of prodding left foot effort from probably thigh high, and it just flies away wide and behind.
Yeah, I mean the ball from Husanov, not a great crossing position. He's well in field and he just fires the ball at Haaland, who's 18 yards out, and he dangles a lazy left long leg at the ball, and it goes high and wide.
So what have we got left now, Chris? It's 10 minutes to go. 10 minutes away, Bodø Glimt, from a truly famous victory for this club, but also a result as Reinders controls nicely on the edge of the area, takes it into the box, but it's taken away from him by Shervold, and actually that's given us a free kick.
He's been good as well, John, hasn't he? Shervold, the right back from Bodø, ball fired into Reinders, who took it well, but Shervold getting his body in real aggression there, gets back and then draws the foul. Tell you the other thing I think I'm right in saying is that another Bodø player goes down on the edge of the box. I think another 3 Norwegians coming onto the pitch with their changes. I mean, it's truly remarkable, isn't it?
It is, and you know, and also the fact that so many of them are from this town. That's the thing. That there's real local pride here in this.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned Norway going to the World Cup in the US. I think they had a clean sweep of their games in the group stage, and I think it's only Berg who was a regular international player. The rest, it's a triumph of coaching, this.
It is.
It really is.
In some ways, the most disappointing Norwegian on the field tonight, Chris, has been...
Yeah, Big Erling. Well, the guy at breakfast may have been onto something.
But he's just not... It's one of those nights. We see them on a regular basis. Next match, he'll crack in 4 goals.
And that's it. You never write him off. He had 2 big chances in the first half, didn't take them. It's not been a happy evening for him.
And now another change for Bodø Glimt, and the left-sided central midfielder Fert is going to be replaced by Isak Mata, who is a Norway under-20 international, and he's actually coming all the way across here to play on the right-hand side, even though he's really his preferred position is a left back. Hauga for Bodø. Into the last 10 minutes we go. Commentary on Tottenham, Borussia Dortmund to come on 5 Live, as Bodø go back into the centre circle. Bjørtuft forward from the back, from the central defender. Now here is Marta. Marta's ball straight into the path of Marmouche, who was coming back. He got a touch on that. Manchester City with Elaine, who made errors in the build-up to the first two Bodø goals. Young Max Elaine, as the ball's deflected out of play for a throw into Manchester City halfway inside their own half.
I think if you're Jeremy Doku, you're thinking, well, what have I done wrong not to get on the pitch and be given an opportunity? Maybe there's a plan somewhere from Pep Guardiola, but I don't understand that. Down to 10 men, you want someone who can carry the ball and drag you up the pitch and commit players and create something, and I think Doku is one of those.
Manchester City come again with Shirky. Shirky's passed through the middle. That's straight into the path of Bjørtuft. Bjørtuft plays it forward. Here's Hauger again. He goes down, just had his heels clipped. Actually, the referee says play on, as Bodø with Shervold is able to play it back into the back line again. 7 minutes to play. Bodø Glimt 3, Manchester City 1. As the ball deflects back to Burr, controls it, plays it out to the left-hand side. Bjørkan in space there. Bjørkan's right-footed ball, but I think there are at least 2, possibly 3 Bodø players in offside positions, and the ball runs through to Donnarumma. And remember, Donnarumma's made a couple of very good saves, and they hit the crossbar as well. This, a little bit like the match that I was watching weekend before last, Macclesfield at Crystal Palace. This is no fluke.
Absolutely not. They did wallop Jose Mourinho's Roma 6-1 here, didn't they, a while ago?
Does Manchester City try to build something, but Mata, or rather it's played away out of play via a deflection for a throw into Manchester City. Shirky, then O'Reilly again. 3 players around him. He's done well, he's taken it on, left foot across to the back post, chested down, then the shot, which is deflected all the way across the penalty area, away from goal, and Mata will actually clear it downfield, and they've defended that well.
They did defend it well. Didn't O'Reilly do well though, near the byline, wriggled past 3 Bodø defenders and stood the ball up, but bodies on the line once again from Bodø.
Actually, it was 53 seconds between Rodri's 2 yellow cards.
But for a player of such experience, I don't think he can have any complaints. He just had to settle himself down after the first one. I think it was Bromberg got the wrong side of him for the second one. Just let him run. He's on the halfway line. Stupidity from Rodri.
Gonzalez is another one on the Manchester City injured list at the moment. 3-1 it is. 5 minutes to play now. This latest Manchester City attack breaks down. Mata looked for a free kick there, and the referee rightly says no, and then it's played forward, and Helmerson was in an offside position, so Manchester City with the free kick. Time running out for Pep Guardiola and his team. They've already lost, Manchester City, in this group at home against Bayer Leverkusen, which was their first defeat in either the group stage or the league phase of the Champions League since 2018. Listen, they're still in a good position, but next week's home match against Galatasaray, it's entirely possible, depending on the other results, they might have to win that to make sure of going through in the top 8 places directly into the round of 16. They've got 13 points currently, and last season, in the first season of this league phase, you needed 16 to go through directly to the round of 16. Manchester City with the ball. Shirky into the edge of the box, but that's easy. Berg just takes that down and then just passes it away out of play near the halfway line. That'll do.
Yeah, it's a poor pass from Berg. Probably his first one of the evening. He has been a little rock, hasn't he? In front of that Bodø back line, breaking the play up.
Yes, lots of little rocks up here in the Arctic Circle. They've always been intrepid, haven't they, the Norwegians? At whatever point of history you're talking about. Bodø trying to clear it away, but they've won it back, Manchester City. Shirky trying to create something, left-footed ball in. O'Reilly with a header down, but it was straight at the goalkeeper, Hyken. Middle of the goal, 6 yards out, headed it straight at the goalkeeper.
He's got to do better, Shirky. Brilliant dancing feet over on that right-hand side, got to the byline and floated a ball up. Not a lot of pace on the ball, so Riley has to generate the power and doesn't get the contact. Straight at Hyken.
So Bodø have possession again, deep in their own defensive third. Bodø, who've never beaten an English club in the European club competitions, as Husanov was strong, very strong on Auckland. No free kick, says the referee, and then Bodø, in the shape of Mata, wins a throw-in on the halfway line. Throw-in to Bodø with 2.5 minutes of the 90 to play. Yes, yesterday I walked along Roald Amundsen Way, one of the most famous of all Norwegians, and to think of a win for a Norwegian team against an English team does take you back to one of the most famous pieces of commentary of all, Maggie Thatcher and Lord Beaverbrook, for those remembering when Norway beat Ron Greenwood's England many years ago. That was a titanic shock at the time, but I don't think we're quite at those proportions these days, because Norwegian football is in a very good place right now, and a very good place in this match as well, leading Manchester City by 3-1. Ball with Donnarumma, passing it out to Elaine.
You quite rightly mentioned, John, we've given Bodø a lot of praise, but they didn't even win their league.
No. Long one over the top from Lewis, headed away by Bjørtuft. Manchester City take up possession again. Shirky forward to Reinders. Reinders right side of the box. Another Manchester City goal now would make it interesting. Reinders to the byline, but he works it infield, too close to the goalkeeper Heiken, who's able to drop down and take it.
And there's Gunderson again on that far side. Chest to chest, little fist pump there. He knows the job is nearly done. So do the support in front of us. They're all standing up. What a night. What a performance. What a team. What a manager.
So it is a goal kick to Bodø. We're in the 90th minute. Erling Haaland there, I see, looking across to Pep Guardiola, who just moves quietly around that coaching area on the far side of the field. It's not been his night, not been Manchester City's night, not been Haaland's night. Rodri sent off. Mistakes were made. Bodø scored their goals, and even though Shirky got that one back, they've not been able to make any further impression. We shouldn't be worried about Haaland, should we?
I don't think so. You know, he's a striker who's pretty much always scored goals. He'll come good again. I mean, anybody who wants to write him off it at his peril.
And there are 4 minutes of added time to play, as Husanov actually takes the ball all the way downfield into the full-back position, but in the end the final touch was off him, and goalkeeper Heiken actually runs all the way out of his penalty area to do a double high five with the you-know-who, with Gunderson, Jostein Gunderson. He also very much a man of the Arctic Circle, and what a night this is. The Bodø supporters now on their feet. Quite a night. There's Gunderson, hits it long from the edge of the penalty area. Helmerson heads it on. Hauger is onto this. Hauger still going. His pass into the penalty area. Chance for fall, but Donnarumma comes out and makes the save from Helmerson. And then Manchester City pounce on the loose ball. Lewis forward towards Haaland, who's dropped inside his own half. Lewis then over the halfway line. Already we're in the first minute of the 4 of added time. Ait Nouri carrying it all the way downfield, then has to check back on his left foot, still going. Shirky back towards Elaine, and then Elaine will play it back to Husanov behind him. But I think Manchester City have lost the element of the breakaway here, as it's played over the top, all the way over the top of Marmouche, and bouncing through to the goalkeeper, who just calmly controls it at his feet. And another Bodø player has sat down inside his own penalty area with alleged cramp.
Yeah, and it was Gunderson once again who shepherded the ball back to Heiken. But what a chance at the other end. I mean, they've had some chances, Bodø, as well, haven't they? Got to say, Hauger off that left-hand side, he's handled the ball brilliantly this evening, coming inside on his right foot, his balance and his awareness. They've got some good players of Bodø.
Yeah, Hauger is one of the the Bodø boys, born in this town, scored the third goal. And now Bodø Glimt are closing in on one of the most famous results in their entire history. Shirky to Lewis. We're in the 3rd minute of the 4 of added time now, as Aitnuri is dispossessed, and it's played forward to Hauge, and Hauge gets his head down and looks for the foul and gets it from Aitnuri, who is shown the yellow card for clipping the heels of Hauge, who ended up sprawling down onto the artificial pitch, and he's now got a touch of cramp as well.
He's just clever, isn't he? Sees Aitnuri coming and gets across his line, wins the free kick. More precious seconds run down for Bodø. This is a famous victory. You mentioned they've never beaten a Premier League side before, but they haven't just beaten them, they've absolutely pummeled them this evening. Manchester City are lucky. They've kept Bodø to 3 goals.
Well, no Norwegian club has won a match in the group stage or the league phase of the Champions League since Rosenborg in 2007. So it is a famous night, this, not just for Bodø Glimt, but all of Norwegian football. Here is Berg, who really makes this team tick. And then Saltnes plays it out towards the far side. Berg is there again. 30 seconds to play. Manchester City aren't going to score 2 goals in 30 seconds. Bodø Glimt are going to win this and keep their Champions League hopes alive. But more than that, it's what this result will do for this club. Really, this tops off their recent progress. Back to the halfway line. They're counting down now, the Bodø supporters. We're into the last 10 seconds. It's all down to the German referee, Sven Jablonski. Manchester City finishing with 10 men after Rodri was sent off. And that seals it. That seals a great night for Bodø Glimt. Erling Haaland walks across and shakes hands with the referee. It's not been that Norwegian's night. It's certainly not been Manchester City's night. But a famous, famous night in the Arctic Circle as Bodø Glimt beat the great Manchester City and Pep Guardiola's team by 3 goals to 1. He marches across to the referee, Pep Guardiola, and speaks to the officials. But what a night for Bodø Glimt, winning a match in the Champions League proper for the first time in their history. And what a time, what a place, and what opponents to do it against. Chris Sutton.
Yeah, what a performance from Bodø. We wondered whether they'd come into the game with their break, whether they'd be undercooked. It was Manchester City who froze on the evening. They had a game plan, Bodø. They were happy to give up possession. But when they broke with pace and ferocity, and it could and should have been more than 3 had it not been for Donnarumma in the Manchester City goal. It would have been. People will look at this, and it's a Farmers League beating a Premier League team, and they thoroughly deserved it.
So Bodø Glimt are not out yet, and Manchester City aren't certain of a place in the top 8 of the Champions League yet. But Erling Haaland leads his players over to the 400 Manchester City fans in the corner, and they all go there to thank their supporters for coming, well, to the most northerly venue for Champions League football and supporting them, even though it's certainly not gone their way tonight. But the focus and the spotlight is on Bodø Glimt and their players. They will talk about this in the Arctic Circle forever. Bodø Glimt 3, Manchester City 1.
John Murray and Chris Sutton are there for us, and we will talk from a Manchester City point of view very shortly as a disconsolate Erling Haaland goes over to the Manchester City supporters. But tonight is all about Bodø Glimt. It's been an incredible story right from the outset, pretty much since COVID times, when they were playing really exciting football, but nobody was able, of course, to go and watch it. And this is This is a story, John, that has been building for a few years now and has kind of reached its peak with this 3-1 victory against Manchester City.
Well, it is, as I mentioned, when the general manager, Frode Thomason, stood up at the AGM back in 2018, and their players now are celebrating with the fans in the stands to our left. And Frode Thomason said to them, you know, we'll never win the league, but almost from that point on, under Kjetil Knutsen, who started off as the assistant manager here, then took over. In 2019, they got promotion, they finished second in the league, and since then they've not looked back. And you know, people here have told me that they just couldn't believe that this would happen. They say that Knutsen has been the saviour of the club. They said it's a fairy tale. Said this shouldn't be happening, but it is very much happening, and the story just goes on.
And they've never, as you say, beaten an English team in Europe. They've drawn 3 and lost 3 before this game this evening. What a scalp to claim, Chris Sutton. And I can't, you know, I know the players aren't going to be staying out too long because it is very cold inside the Arctic Circle, but those celebrations are going to go on long into the night.
Yeah, it's it's a historic night. The thing is, they thoroughly deserved it. I mentioned Donnarumma made 3 or 4 really important saves to keep the score down. And it is a brilliant story, as John has said. You see the subs coming on, all Norwegian players, 9 of the starting lineup Norwegian players, and you think, other than Berg, these aren't players who are playing in their first 11 in the national team. So it's a triumph for the manager and for coaching. I mean, what a brilliant football club. All the way through this Champions League campaign, they have been really competitive. And tonight, they thoroughly deserve to win. And they'll go now to Atletico, and they'll give them a game as well.
I know we were talking last night, Kelly, on 5 Live Sport, and Rory Smith was talking about some of the players who've gone away, you know, have been here, gone away, come back. Hauger's a great example of that. As I mentioned, he was born here in this town, but went to Milan, went to Eintracht Frankfurt, didn't really happen for them there. Came back on loan, eventually signed permanently again with his hometown club, and he scores the goal that makes it 3-1 tonight. He scored both goals against Tottenham in September in the 2-2 draw, and he scored against Borussia Dortmund in their previous Champions League match before Christmas. You know, he is another one who embodies what they've got here.
And while they are celebrating this famous victory, it's another disappointing result for Manchester City. 2 wins in their last 7. One of those was that big win against Exeter City as well. What's going on at Manchester City, and is tonight a symptom of it, or was this something else, Chris?
I think you have to give all the credit to Bodø, but you look at you can say, well, Manchester City, the bench, they've got youngsters on the bench, but you look at that, their starting 11. Pep Guardiola went strong. Jeremy Doku didn't get a game tonight for Manchester City, so look, it's not a good moment in the season for them. Plenty of injuries. Semenyo has come in, Mark Gahey's come in to strengthen things, but they've just caused themselves a bit of a problem this evening, not winning the game, because they don't want to go into the playoff stage of the Champions League, and now if they don't beat Galatasaray, that may happen, and that's not where they want to be, especially with the squad as depleted as they have been. But in terms of they've got Wolves at the weekend, it's just important that they find a win and start building that confidence tonight. But their game pretty much summed up by Rodri this evening. First half he was actually okay, but his sending off, that there are players out there who just aren't thinking straight. He lost his head. Really rash to be two yellow cards within a minute. Rash as anything, deserved to go, and he's one of their more experienced players. He's a player Pep Guardiola relies on, and he couldn't rely on him tonight.
Yeah, 53 seconds between his first and second yellows, and that's the lowest for a sending off for an English club in the Champions League since Wayne Rooney for Manchester United against Villarreal in September 2005, and that one was significantly shorter. It was just 4 seconds. But it, as you say, it kind of indicates where City's heads were at maybe in that game. But as a one-off game, these things can happen, John, as we find ourselves saying so often. It's more the fact that this seems to be a pattern, a slump for Manchester City.
But also, talking about Rodri, probably more than the 2 yellow cards in 53 seconds. It's more the way that Hauger went past him and in the build-up to his scoring the third goal for Bodø Glimt, because you just didn't see that, did you? Someone going past Rodri like that, just dropped his shoulder, little trick, past him.
It's easy to blame the surface. I think we both talked about, would this surface suit Rodri? He's had a bad injury, or coming back from a bad injury this season. I mean, he was literally like one of the ferries, I said earlier, in the harbour, turning like that. And physically he struggled in the second half, but he's part of a Manchester City team. They'll never live this down. It's an embarrassing night for them, like it or not, and they've still got work to do. They're not where they want to be in this season, and they're going to have to find a way to get back against Wolves at the weekend.
And Chris, from one striker to another, thoughts on Erling Haaland? 8 games without a goal for him. It's unprecedented.
Well, one goal in that time, the penalty. Do you remember? Scored the penalty against Brighton. So he's not scored a goal from open play in 8 matches. Yeah,
and look, he's we're getting a bit from the supporters here. They're really excited. But no, but he's a striker who thrives off chances. Had a couple tonight, but should have certainly scored one on his heels for one as well. This guy's really loud, but he's happy anyway. We're pleased for him.
The way that I said we weren't going to hear anyone like that Norwegian commentator. Well, I think we're getting that actually right now from him.
I think he's having his moment, very much so. Look, they're all going to be celebrating long into the night. It sounds like they want you to join them, so we are going to let you go. John Murray, Chris Sutton, thank you so much on an extraordinary night from inside the Arctic Circle.